So, welcome, Alice. It's lovely to see you. So, Alice Gent, you studied at Hereford Sixth Form College. What subjects did you do when you were with us?
So for my A levels, I did English literature, history, and biology, and then I also did an AS level in chemistry.
Amazing. I didn't realize you did chemistry as well. What a mix. So, did you think before you came to Sixth Form College you were going to go into the STEM route?
Yeah, I had always wanted to do medicine, and then sort of had a bit of a panic at 17. Like, I don't know if I can make this bigger life decision when I'm so young. So I chose to do history at uni instead.
Oh, fantastic. And so, where did you study at university?
I studied at the University of Oxford.
Fantastic. And so, did you know lots about it, or tell us about your experience of applying and things like that?
So I didn't, I'd never been to Oxford before. I didn't really know anything about it, but I'd kind of, obviously I knew about it, like in a kind of conceptual sense. But there was this program at Hereford called like HE Plus, I remember doing, and I did the history HE Plus course, and I think it was Mr. Law was a teacher who was doing it then, and he was like, well, why didn't you apply to Oxford? And I was like, okay, maybe I could, maybe that's something I could do. And so my dad actually took me to Oxford so we could have a look around. We went and had a look at all the colleges and went to the gift shops and all that kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll apply here. Fantastic. The application system is obviously quite complicated, much more so than other universities. But there was really good support at Hereford.
And so then how did you find university? And then what have you gone on? So you studied A levels, you did your history degree, and then what did that lead to afterwards?
Experience of university, I loved Oxford. I thought it was fantastic. It's obviously like quite different from like a quote unquote normal university experience. Um, from everything from the kind of collegiate system to just the way that kind of life goes on there. But I just really thought it was quite magical. And I guess, I don't have any understanding of what I would have experienced if I'd gone to a different uni. So I can't really compare it. But I really enjoyed it. I was certainly very sad to leave, although I was not sad for finals to be over because they were awful. um, would not recommend. Yeah, so I graduated, and I actually technically I haven't graduated yet. I was supposed to graduate in 2020. That has not happened. Potentially I'll never graduate. But I kind of left uni, and I'd never really thought about what I wanted to do as a job. I was coming out of uni feeling a little bit unprepared and was like, right, I think I want to move to London. That's where all my friends are. I know I want a career or at least a job for now in something to do with like charities. And I had a lot of experience with kind of education access, in part through Hereford. Like there were great access schemes that allowed us to think about things like Oxbridge. But then also at uni, I'd been quite involved with access work, including like running like my college's access program.
Wow.
So I applied for jobs in that kind of sector, and I got a job with an education access charity. I really liked it, and I kind of, through like learning a bit more about education as like a sector rather than just through the lens of like, a student, kind of got me thinking about like maybe I should have a look at policy, that being like an interesting way to kind of affect change in education. So I knew quite a bit about this organization called the Sutton Trust because they're a really big education think tank, and they had an internship program that was opening up. So I applied for it, and very luckily I got it. So that's what I've been doing for the last year. But that internship is coming to a close now. So now I'm on the lookout for new kind of like education-y, policy, charity-esque jobs. And yeah, that's kind of where it's led me this far.
That's amazing. And tell me about the access work that you were doing. So what did that involve when you did that first job?
So the first job was working specifically in colleges, a little bit similar to Hereford actually, but really big colleges, so further education colleges. So they would often have a mix of subjects. Much like Hereford, you would have vocational courses or people doing arts courses, as well as like A levels. But generally speaking, they were less academic than Hereford was, more focused towards vocational courses. And because a lot of the students who go to those colleges are very disadvantaged. In fact, they're like much more likely to be disadvantaged than someone who goes to like a normal sixth form college. So the charity that I worked for, basically what we did is we provided free kind of one-on-one or group tuition for students who are retaking their GCSE English and Maths. Because the impact of not getting those grades is so huge because you can't get a job in like the public sector at all. Like you can't get onto most university courses if you wanted to train to be a nurse or even like a plumber or an electrician. Like you need those basic GCSEs. So that was kind of what the charity did.
Amazing. That sounds so interesting. And so the kind of next thought would be, so for example, you've done that work and then internship with, as you said, a really fantastic think tank, the Sutton Trust. So what kind of field would really interest you next?
The stuff that would really interest me and I think play to my strengths is more of the kind of research and policy side. And then doing that this year with the Sutton Trust has really confirmed that, like, I find out new things, and that's what I find really interesting. Policy to me kind of sounds like the best way to go. But also, I am not particularly certain about anything. I could go in all sorts of different directions. I don't really have a grand plan or anything. I'm just kind of like messing around and hoping for the best in the sector that I find like the most kind of rewarding and the most interesting.
That's so great to hear. I know it sounds strange, but I think so many of my students think I have to have a kind of idea, I have to have a kind of career, I have to have a plan. And I think actually it's really nice that I always say to them they will have interesting and varied careers and it will lead in different directions and there might be different points and journeys you go on. And I think that's so helpful to hear. So if you were to say to someone, why would you do an arts degree? Why would you? So tell me about your experience. Why do you think that was still the right degree for you? So rather than going down that kind of, I'm going in this kind of medicine, I'm going to go into law, what is it about a kind of big arts degree, like something like history, that really is exciting and gives you opportunities?
So I think the broadness of it, it's you get so many transferable skills, and people always say like transferable skills, but like it is true. The amount of jobs I've applied for where they require like an essential requirement is being very able to communicate both verbally and or like having really good written communication skills. That's so useful. But also arts degrees encompass such a wide variety of topics. And even within that, if you're studying history or if you're studying English, that subject itself is like so much more than just one small thing. Like in my history degree, I was carrying out research, and that gives you really useful skills. It also requires you at various points to defend your arguments. You need evidence-based skills as well as like basic, well, not basic, but like high level literacy. You need to be able to absorb, analyze, and kind of reframe a lot of information in a short space of time. And whether you're doing, you know, English or history or philosophy or something more literally artsy, like, you know, like fine art or music, all of those subjects require so many different skills that you put into one place. And employers, at least so far, I think, I hope, are in favor of those. They need those. I know people with arts degrees who've gone on to do law conversions. In fact, that seems to be a universal choice. Everyone's doing a law conversion. I know people who've gone on to do postgrad medicine. I know people who have gone on to do finance. I know people who've gone on to do all these different things. Like having an arts degree shows that you're able to do all of these different things.
That's very cool. And I think you're absolutely right. I like the kind of flexibility. I think that kind of creative thinking, but also a lot of the things you said, researchability, high levels of literacy, working with people. And that is actually what work is all about. It's actually about working with people, with employers. So I think that's really important. Now, if you were to give any hints and tips about students who are considering A-levels and Hereford Sixth Form College subjects, what kind of hints and tips would you give if you were kind of about to embark on sixth form college life? What would your suggestions be?
I think don't try and like limit yourself by thinking like I need to do these types of subjects to follow this type of path or whatever. I mean, I definitely did that kind of going into it, being like, I need to do biology and chemistry. I really want to do English and history. So I kind of picked all four of them and was like, I'll hope for the best. I did not love chemistry. As it turned out, I was not good at chemistry. But, I really loved biology. I absolutely adored it. It was my best grade. I thought it was fantastic. I still think it's so interesting. And I'm so glad I actually did a whole mix of stuff in the end. That, you know, that I did English, which I absolutely adored because I just got to read books all the time, and history, which I found a bit more difficult, but I kind of enjoyed on the basis of that. And yeah, I would really recommend like doing a mix of subjects if that's what interests you.
That is so fantastic. Thank you so much for all your hints, tips and advice. And it's exciting. And we'll have to keep in touch and find out where you go next.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so nice.